But here's the deal. I just read your great big beautiful bill, and it's bullshit.
How stupid it was to have voted for that criminal. And I came across a story from NPR just now. Here's the headline. A Maryland town wanted Trump to cut waste.
Just no tax on overtime. I've been fucking ecstatic, dude. I know America's been waiting on this shit. Everybody's been bragging. Man, I can't wait. I'm going to have so much extra money. It's going to, bring in so much more money per month. Wrong, motherfuckers. Wrong. I did the fine print looking. It is not fucking going to help us month to month. It's not going to help you check. None. They're still going to tax the fuck out of your goddamn check. Yeah. You got to fucking claim that shit at the end of the year, man. It's not going to help us none. And I know if you're anything like me, I usually got to fucking pay in at the end of the year. So if anything, I might get a little bit back now. But they're not going to fucking give us 100% back of what we made in OT. It's like, how much do we pay in per year in taxes? I mean, a lot, right? You don't see fucking nowhere near that at the end of the year, right? You'd think they would have fucking blatantly said this shit to us instead of fucking, no tax on overtime, blah, blah, blah. Everybody fucking thought it was going to help our checks. It ain't going to fucking help our checks, man. Fuck these government motherfuckers, man. Fuck them.
There's no strategy. I have no strategy.
I'm a supporter of President Donald Trump. Voted for him in this election and the last and the one prior to that. However, President Trump is about to allow JBS, the world's most corrupt beef organization, to become publicly traded in America. President Donald Trump will be the president that allows for the complete destruction of the small, independent family farms and cattle ranches. If
surprise, 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 surprise,
he allows this to go through. The SEC has already approved it. Now we're just waiting a mere few days for them to allow it on the stock exchange.
surprise, 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 surprise.
And what's concerning is we haven't heard a word from the Secretary of Agriculture about this. We haven't heard any of the large cattle organizations that represent cattlemen speak out about this. They claim to represent cattlemen. The truth is they only represent the big guys that are bought and paid for by the same organizations, JBS, Cargill, Tyson, National Beef. And the collusion that's happening, go do a very simple search and you'll see the millions and millions, and tens upon millions of dollars that these companies have been ordered to pay for collusion and price fixing, which has cost us our family farms and ranches. And what that costs us as the people who aren't family farms and ranches is a stable food system. As much as I'm a supporter of many of the other things that Trump is doing, that anything else in the world that we're working to accomplish and achieve doesn't matter when you have famine and you starve to death. So, Mr. President, I love you. I appreciate you. It is our job as citizens to hold you accountable. And whoever you've got in your circle, they ain't speaking truth because you're about to put us in a whole world of hurt. Folks, I need you to share this. This is urgent. We've only got a mere few days, and we need millions of people to put pressure to stop this, or it's going to be it'll be a much harder fight to come back from. Thanks, everybody.
There's zero strategy.
I know you told me you voted for President Trump. What were you hoping that he would do?
I was hoping he would did something that made sense regarding the economy, made some kind of progress in bettering, the benefits of being a veteran. But I mean, it just seemed like he actually cared about doing what was best for the country, but now it just feels like all about me, Donald Trump, not, the guy out there working in the trenches trying to make ends meet, trying to pay a mortgage, trying to pay the bills. It goes against everything I expected when, I voted for him.
So you're not satisfied with what you said?
No. And it doesn't even have to do with anything about me getting fired. I mean, if I had gotten fired as part of the, government, cutting government spending, I would have been fine with that. I can accept that. But he's not delivering on anything he said he was going to do. So what's your real game plan? You know, it doesn't make sense to me.
There are some things that he promised to do that he has put in place. I mean, there are executive orders that he's done, that he said that he was going to do. You don't feel like he's lived up to those promises?
I mean, where are the results? I mean, seriously, prices are still going up. We're now in the middle of a tariff war with a bunch of countries that used to be our steadfast allies. I mean, how do you make an enemy of Canada? You know, they're right next to us, and they've been one of our premier allies and commerce partners for, I mean, seriously, like, what, centuries now?
And he did say that he was going to put tariffs in place. Did you just not think that they would be implemented in this particular way?
I didn't think they were going to be put in play in a juvenile way. I mean, where was the attempt to actually talk to the heads of these other countries like, hey, you know, I feel you have unfair tariffs against our products. I'd like to talk about it first. And if we can't work out some kind of resolution, then I feel to protect our people, we need to implement this kind of tariff. There was no attempt at even talking to the other countries.
Guys, every once in a while I see a news headline that's so outlandish that I have to quadruple check to make sure it's real. That includes this ultimate FAFO moment for Kid Rock this past weekend. As we know, Kid Rock is practically married to Donald Trump. They have such a close relationship. Kid Rock was also the one that fanned the flames for the Bud Light boycott that led to the company losing billions of dollars. Well, in an FAFO moment this past weekend, Kid Rock's restaurant in Nashville ceased operations on Saturday for fear that they would be raided by ICE. Kid Rock's Big A, honky tonk rock and roll steakhouse in Nashville was not open on Saturday after a majority of its staff did not show up, and those who did were told to go home to avoid being arrested by ICE. ICE had an operation in Nashville on Saturday along with the Tennessee Highway Patrol to intercept undocumented migrants.
I'm voting for Donald Trump for the economy and to own the libs. Well, there goes my shoe business. I don't understand why the tariffs have to eliminate the mini-me's exception. Why does the government punish small businesses in the country knowing full well that Nike and other big brands will be fine paying the taxes, but Steffi and I get wiped out? I think that's always fun to point out about this is they never blame Trump. It's the government boogeyman. Because it could never be your dear leader's fault, even though it was his plan and he's the one on the news saying the beautiful, beautiful tariffs. But don't worry, guys. A lot of MAGA saw his cry for help and decided to buy a bunch of shoes and products from him. Thanks to all those who bought shoes from the shop last night, but we do have to note that all customers will be required to go to their local post office and pay Trump's 145% tax before you're allowed to receive them. You get what you voted for.
You know, when I'm having a bad day, it sometimes helps to find a story about dumbass Trump voters who are now finding out just how stupid it was to have voted for that criminal. And I came across a story from NPR just now. Here's the headline. A Maryland town wanted Trump to cut waste. Now it's a target. And when I saw this headline, I thought, oh, this has got to be a town in Western Maryland. And it is. It is a town called Emmitsburg, which looks to be, I looked at the map, it is a stone's throw from Pennsylvania. And if you aren't familiar with Pennsylvania, I lived there for a while. If you get outside of the cities, which is most of the land area of Pennsylvania is outside of the cities. It's a very rural state, big state. You might as well be in Alabama. I mean, it is hardcore MAGA. Anyway, so it's no surprise that this town is close to Pennsylvania. Let me read some of this article for you. Frank Davis saw a lot of waste during his decades in the federal government. In November, he voted for Donald Trump to get rid of it. So far, Davis likes a lot of what he has seen. Quote, I'm probably going to get shot for this, but he is doing what he said he was going to do, says Davis, who serves as mayor of his town of about 3,000 people in western Maryland, just south of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So, Mr. Davis here, Frank, is mayor of Emmitsburg. In March, the Trump administration suddenly canceled in-person classes at the National Fire Academy here, which trains the United States firefighters. Not only is the academy a big part of Emmitsburg's identity, but it also helps drive the local economy. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good, especially if you're mayor. Quote, "It will change my outlook to say that they're not being fair," says Davis. Actually, did I skip something here? I did. Let me go back. Davis says the administration is reviewing the academy's operations, and he is hopeful it will restore classes. If not, he says, he'll see the administration somewhat differently. Quote, "It will change my outlook to say that they're not being fair," says Davis, who also serves as emergency medical services captain at the local firehouse known as the Vigilant Hose Company. Quote, "They're just going in to cut and not caring what they cut." Well, you know, Frank, where he says here, "It will change my outlook to say they're not being fair," how is it that they're not being fair? Oh yeah, I know. Because now they're cutting something that you benefit from. That's why it's not fair. If Trump was cutting things that only affected and hurt other people, you'd be all for it, right, Frank? Mayor Frank? You'd be all for that, as long as it's not you who is getting screwed. Typical selfish MAGA. Emmitsburg voted overwhelmingly for President Trump in November. NPR interviewed about 24 people here. Almost all of them voted for Trump, and many said his plans to cut federal spending were a key attraction. Now they say they are puzzled as to why the administration would cancel national training for firefighters. Why would they do that? We voted for him to cut, but why is he cutting this?
So I'm back to talking about the FAFO. So a recent article has come out that the state of Missouri, which went overwhelmingly for syphilitic Sid, you know, they had those tornadoes a couple weeks ago. Bad tornadoes. 7 people were killed. And the devastation, right? And remember a few weeks ago, I told you that Sarah Huckabee, you know, she got the souls of children trapped in her knees, asked him for help. And little Ichabod, you know, Tom Cotton, went to Syphilitic Sid and said, "Hey, please give us the money." And he said, "No, I'm not giving y'all no money." Same thing, you know, with North Carolina in the hurricane when he got into office, and they were like, "Where the FEMA money is coming?" And he was like, "No, anyway, so Missouri today is apparently their FAFO. So the governor of Missouri is literally pleading with Sid to give them some money for relief. And he said, "No, y'all need to figure that out." I want to understand. Y'all over here cheering for the foolishness. And your house is getting carried away in hurricanes and tornadoes and floods and stuff. And the dude that y'all said was gonna make life better for y'all keeps telling y'all no. He's not going to give you any federal dollars to fix your hurricane and tornado and flood ravaged states. And the fact that y'all still riding with this, cheering, children being deported, people getting snatched off the streets, talking about y'all gonna do all kind of military tribunals. Little crazy Christy with her little cosplay with her guns in front of a prison, and little miniature Marco can't form a sentence when asked why he keeps kissing syphilitic Sid's ass. I'm just here to say, I love this. I love this for y'all. Now, I ain't gonna lie. I live in a state that, you know, we about to probably get a hurricane right here in the next few months and all of that. And I'm sure we're gonna be in the same boat. So I'm not gonna like wish ill on nobody because I don't need that karma. But I feel like y'all in these red states that are going through that, so, but anyway, I'm not gonna like gloat because I live in a red state. I don't need that kind of bad energy. But you know, it's spiritual something to y'all.
Oh, another farmer in that find out stage we all love. Meet Jim Hartman, a honey farmer from North Carolina that was getting $150,000 a year in government contracts. But wait for it, the two other great kickers are Jim gets all of his packaging supplies from China. And can you guess where Jim's labor comes from? That's right, south of the border. But Jim couldn't help himself. Jim has now voted for Donald Trump 3 times. And when Jim hears Donald Trump's racism, he can't help but put himself in financial peril to go run and vote for Donald Trump a 3rd time. And as you can see from the headline of this article, the only thing that Mr. Hartman understands is, I lost $150,000. He doesn't care about how he's affected so many families in America, how innocent people are being deported and sent to El Salvador, or about how folks like him have ushered in an era of fascism in the United States. But Jim wants us all to feel sorry about him losing his grip on the teat of the American government. Jim, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, bud. Right? Not that hard.
Today I spoke with Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon and her guest, a veteran and former federal worker from Delaware County.
We wanted to highlight one of the people who'd been unjustly fired. Smitty has been with the IRS Taxpayer Advocacy Service, so he works with taxpayers to help them make sure they're paying the correct amount, they're not paying too much.
I love doing that job. I love helping people out. You know, and being told that you can't go to work anymore because you haven't been there for a year is just kind of horrible, you know. The Taxpayer Advocate Service is already undermanned as it is. And, you know, when the case advocates are averaging over 120 cases per person, and you're letting everybody go, how does that help the taxpayer?
Did you support President Trump in the last election?
Honestly, yeah, I did. I thought, you know, he would be someone that would, you know, because he talked a lot about taking care of the military, taking care of the veterans, taking care of the people that put him in office, and it just hasn't happened. So if I could go back in time, I would have voted for, you know, Vice President Harris in a heartbeat.
All right, you shady motherfucker, listen up and listen good. I voted for you because of your no tax on overtime bill, amongst other things. But here's the deal. I just read your great big beautiful bill, and it's bullshit. The overtime, no tax on overtime, this is the way it works in that bill. You ready for this shit? You get a $10,000 tax deduction at the end of the year for overtime if you make less than $100,000. Well, let me tell you something, boys and girls. There are very few skilled tradesmen in this country, and I'm talking about construction workers, especially union construction workers, oil field workers, truck drivers. None of them will be eligible for that $10,000 deduction because it stops at $100,000. That's right, $100,000. Now that sounds like a lot of money if you're from Oklahoma. But let me tell you what, if you live in Washington, Idaho, Montana, California, Oregon, Colorado, even Texas, all the coastal states, New York through Florida, $100,000 is just an average wage for a skilled tradesman. Your welders, your pipe fitters, your good framing carpenters. That's just that. It doesn't get you there. It doesn't get you there, which means we'll still be taxed on all of our overtime. 100%. This is bullshit. Now, if you're at the 7-Eleven and you're working overtime, you might have a chance. But this is not going to affect those of us in construction and manufacturing. It's just not. A good line welder, most of the country, you're talking $46, $55 an hour, okay? Even more in a coastal state, as much as $60 or $70 an hour. And you work 10, 12 hours a day. This big, beautiful bill is a big pile of bullshit for skilled tradesmen. I said what I said. Bring the fucking heat. And another thing, truck drivers work 70 hours a week, every week, and they don't get paid by the hour. There is no overtime. Bullshit. This is a bullshit bill, and it doesn't even come close to addressing the people who put you in office, which are the blue-collar workers of America. So, Donnie, I'm going to fucking go the other way with this one. With this one, you dropped the ball. I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed, DJT. This is some fucking bullshit. If you don't fix this, you're going to lose this, bro. And tell your cronies in Congress, if they don't fix this, I guarantee you, 4 years from now, the majority of those seats will not be red. You pulled a lot of goddamn union brothers over to your side. And I appreciate your ideals most of the time. But this time, not so fucking much. Oh, by the way, not driving, riding. He's driving. The bald-faced fuck. He doesn't even like your overtime bill. Fuck you! There it is. You share this shit. Let everybody know what the real fucking deal is. I don't like being hoodwinked.
A Trump voter is suing the government for being detained at the border. His name is Bashir Atala. He and his wife were detained at the Canadian border as they were trying to return from a visit in Canada. They were there visiting family for the Easter holiday. He was surrounded by 5 agents. They all had their hands on their guns. At one point, he had to tell them, keep your hands off of your guns. You're making me nervous. Atala apparently had a medical emergency because of this, because of the stress. So take a look at what he had to say.
He just reached for his gun. He's like, step out of the vehicle right now. I said, okay, I'm stepping out.
Bashir Atala recounts the moments he says U.S. Customs and Border agents detained him and his wife for several hours Sunday night.
For no reason. And even if there was any reason that I don't know about, they didn't even share that reason with me. I was detained. I was not free to leave. Holding sense, no shoes, no jacket. It was freezing cold.
The real estate attorney says the officers wouldn't let him call his sister, an immigration attorney. She tells us she didn't get a call until 3 hours later.
What happened to my brother is not reasonable. It's an abuse of power. What message are we sending to people who are legally in this country?
I really felt like a criminal.
So that was just a portion of an interview that he did with one news outlet. And then he also told a news outlet, quote, "They handcuffed me, they twisted my arm, my wrist, they walked me inside, and I was looking at my wife in the car. It was like a shock for me."
If it isn't the consequences of Josh Hawley's own actions. If you haven't heard, the Midwestern region of the US has been hit with horrible storms and tornadoes, including Senator Hawley's state of Missouri. And with regards to his state's and the region's recovery, he says that the federal government will need to play a big role, with him also saying, more specifically, FEMA and disaster relief needs to come, quote, as soon as possible. And yes, I am showing a Fox News article for a reason, because this is what MAGA sees, and this leaves out a very, very critical piece of context. Now this This is more like it, because what Fox News failed to mention is that Senator Josh Hawley, when given the chance to vote for expanding FEMA and disaster relief funds, he voted no. Okay, so I showed you what the right sees, and I showed you what everyone else sees. But here's a headline that, honestly, I couldn't really place which category to put it in. So this one is from Rolling Stone. GOP senator begs for disaster aid as FEMA snubs another red state. Several conservative states have been forced to wait for disaster relief, with lawmakers publicly groveling for federal assistance. So, I mean, like, you could probably even tell in the way that I was trying not to laugh during some of that. Like, some of it is very, like, funny and, like, left-wing sounding, but then it's also kind of sounding like blaming the government for, like, hurting these red states almost, when these senators, these leaders of these red states had a direct say in whether or not they would get FEMA funding, and they chose to not get it. So I guess all of this is just to say, Missourians, people in the Midwest with other Republican leaders that are trying to gaslight them into thinking the federal government is withholding FEMA funds, there's no FEMA funds to withhold because your leaders voted for y'all to not have it. And what, now they're trying to, like, claim discrimination or persecution? Like, what? It's self-inflicted. Meanwhile, their dear supreme leader, the orange felon, still hasn't said a single word about the storms and the havoc that they have wreaked across the region. In this time of rampant, and I mean uncontrollably rampant, mis and disinformation, please remember that the truth still matters a great deal. And just because this handful of people have been elevated to have this authority on our behalf doesn't mean that they're inherently honest all the time or inherently just 100% altruistic, you know, serving the greater good, not really concerning what's good for themselves. It doesn't mean that. They are still people. They still have flaws. They still mess up. They still lie. They still manipulate. They still steal. And they still gaslight. Don't let them do it.
Hector Luis Valdez Cojo, a Cuban sellout who voted for that disgusting, putrid racist, is being deported. How are you doing, Hector Luis Valdez Concho? The part of the Cuban sellout movement, the Venezuelan sellout movements. Thought you could be friends and he would pat you on your head like a little puppy. Now you're being deported. I love that for you. You never vote on the side of white supremacy, you dumb son of a bitch. Now, go back to Cuba with all the shortages they have and all the people that think you sold them out. You're not welcome by the black people over here. You're not welcome by the cool white people over here. You're not welcome by the other Cubans over here. Eat shit. Everybody on the minority side that voted for that pig, you're a sellout and you're a bootlicker and you're weak. And I love that for you. Valdez. Look at him. Look at him, y'all. Dumbest shit in the history of America. Dumbass.
All right, you shady motherfucker, listen up and listen good. I voted for you.
We tried for 4 long fucking years to tell you guys what Donald Trump's plan was for this country. 4 backbreaking fucking years. And you guys refused to listen. And now you have the balls to get on this app because now you're mad. Because, again, it's affecting you, isn't it? It's only supposed to affect everybody else, not you though, right? The fact that you have the balls to get on this app and bitch about something you voted for, that we tried to get you not to vote for, but you guys were too interested in fucking conspiracy theories. Are you telling me this is the first time you've ever realized Donald Trump was shady? Despite all the fucking evidence we presented to you guys? Now you all act surprised, like I can't believe he's fucking doing this. Well, what the fuck did you think he was going to do? I mean, the guy only had a book written outlining his plan in Project 2025 of what he was going to do. Do me a favor. Save your fucking rants, save your apologies, and stick him directly up your fucking ass. Because at the end of the day, you're just as culpable as he is. You have the day you fucking deserve.
Thought of the day. Fuck Joe Biden. And if you voted for him and don't regret it, fuck you too.
Today's the day that I turn my truck in. I between the shops and the insurance and everything else that goes with it, the payments, I went broke. Put it mildly, I just went broke. Got to turn my truck in. Love my truck. I tried my best. Luckily, I work for a guy who's good enough to put me in a company truck. But it doesn't change the fact that I fucking failed. Run my ass off and stay out 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks at a time, sometimes more. Not only spend every penny I have, I went in debt. I owe this good man a lot of money. A lot of money. He's good enough to try. He's going to work with me. See if I can't get it paid back. Doesn't help the fact that I fucking failed. For all the truckers out there, I'll be out there with you. I'm trying to work it off. God bless you. Throw a peace sign up when you pass somebody. We all need it. Gee, I don't know what else to say. I don't deal with failure well. And I failed in a grandiose fashion, man. Crash and burn like I've never done in my life. Stay blessed. Remember, put God first. Love you. Peace. I'm out.
The rich do not care about the poor, and the only poor people who don't understand that is MAGA. Again, the rich do not care about the poor, and the only poor folk who do not understand that is MAGA. You know why? Good morning.
We're not going to touch your Medicaid. We're not going to touch your Medicare.
Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security will not be touched.
Yeah, I mean, I have said it so many times, you shouldn't be asking me that.
Medicaid has never been on the chopping block.
I'm not going to vote for Medicaid cuts, benefit cuts.
You will see no cuts in Medicaid payments. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff.
What was that about? We were fear-mongering. So it turns out the federal deficit will increase by $3.8 trillion. There will be a decrease in Medicaid of $698 billion. SNAP will decrease by $267 billion. And the lowest 10% of earners, the lowest, the people struggling the most, will have less resources. Their resources will decrease by 2%, and then that will increase to 4% after a few years. So the very poorest will become poorer, but the top 10% will increase their resources because of tax cuts by 4%. Millions of people, including children, will lose their health care coverage. And there's something called the Pay-As-You-Go Act. The Pay-As-You-Go Act kicks in when there's a certain level of increase to the deficit that automatically requires spending cuts. That will cause a reduction in Medicare by 4% a year. So all the things that weren't going to be touched are getting touched. So at this point, if you still support this man, I can only think of a few reasons why that would be. Number one, you're the top 10%. And if you are, congratulations. I'm happy for you having more money. Just know that it came by way of poor people suffering. Or you support him still because he validates your racism and your hate for women. Or you just have mashed potatoes for brains.
These are two Trump voters. Mi esposa y yo votamos a Trump. Nos sentimos un poco también como betrayed o engañados.
Engañado. Él dijo que iba a ir por todos los delincuentes que entraron ilegal.
Y lo
dijo muy claro.
Lo dijo bien claro.
Rojos.
Es un engaño masivo lo que hizo. Es un mentiroso y está mucha gente enojada, ¿no? No solo inmigrantes. Gente que vive aquí, que tiene generaciones y generaciones de estar en
Nunca
este país.
pensé. Los palos me comerían la cara. No, nunca pensé. Le di la espalda a los míos y pensé que todo iría bien. Nunca pensé que los leopardos me comerían la cara. Slow it down now. I never thought. I never thought in my head. No, I never thought.